like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues in joining us in this regularly scheduled November 21st, 2022 City Council meeting. As you come in tonight, there's an open door over there, would be to my right, would be to your left. There's a desk as you come in the door. There's a sign-in sheet on that desk. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign in. City Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Councilperson Morrissey. Palladino.
Here.
Pratt. Here. Sharp.
Here.
Soha. Stuchel. Here. Veer.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
And Mayor Stockford.
Here.
There's 2 absent, Mayor.
Thank you, Katie. We did receive correspondence from Councilman Morrissey. He is out of town tonight. All right, we'll move into approval of agenda. I have one change to make to the agenda. Is there any other changes to make to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have underneath old business an update of Howder and Union, the residents there, the status where we're at.
Okay. And then I've got an addition under proclamation. It's Homeless Youth Awareness Month. So do I have a motion to add item number A under old business, update on Howder and Union Street, as well as what would be letter A under miscellaneous reports, proclamation Homeless Youth Awareness Month?
I move.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Wolfram, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move into public comment. Oh, excuse me. Now we need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Veer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please ensure that if you're speaking about something during this public comment period, that it has a direct tie to something that's present on the agenda tonight. Podium is now open.
Good evening. My name is Holly Carpenter, and I am the McKinney-Vento Grant Coordinator for Branch and Hillsdale counties. McKinney-Vento is a federal act that provides educational protection for homeless students. To be considered homeless under McKinney-Vento, the student must be lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. The McKinney-Vento Act is to provide homeless students the same educational opportunities as housed students by removing as many barriers to learning for homeless students as possible. In the 21-22 school year, 449 students were identified as homeless in Hillsdale County. In 2007, November was first declared as Homeless Awareness Youth Month. Since then, November has been a time to acknowledge those children and families experiencing homelessness. Homelessness is a desperate and difficult situation. For families, individuals, and children in our community, this is a serious concern. People often stereotypically attribute homelessness to laziness, drug, alcohol addiction, or poor life skills. However, homelessness can become a reality for so many families with just one life-altering event, such as being laid off from work, a house fire, or a medical emergency. Along with losing their home, community, friends, and routines, as well as their sense of stability and safety, many homeless youth also are victims of trauma. I applaud the City of Hillsdale for proclaiming November 2022 as Homeless Youth Awareness Month. The purpose of this proclamation would be to educate the public about the many reasons for homelessness, including the shortage of affordable housing for very low-income families, and to encourage all citizens to recognize that many people do not have housing and need support from citizens and the private public sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And thank you for the work you do. It's appreciated. Any more public comment on agenda items?
Am I supposed to state my name?
You can if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Melissa Desjardins. I'm the Executive Director and the Incorporator of Hillsdale Community Thrift. What did I want? Kind of goes along with what she said. I have found a building here in Hillsdale, and I plan on opening it for at-risk youth. Being in the thrift store business, I would have never thought that I would have come across the occurrences that I've come across. One situation example, there was a 17-year-old boy who was employed. He'd already graduated. He has his GED. He was sleeping behind a dumpster at Taco Bell, okay? I had found out through another agency that they were helping him dry his clothes, dry his tent. His mother actually had left him here. She was in domestic harmony, and she left to go back with the man her abuser. She left him here. She left him here with his food stamp card, and she took off. She reported it stolen. She stole all of the money out of his account that he had already earned from Taco Bell, and he was left here. So agencies are limited on what they can and can't do because of the limitations that we have here in our community. And when I say that I would have never thought that this would have been such an issue in our town, I can tell you time and time again, all week long, every single day, I get about 3 or 4 referrals from different agencies of people that are in need of items. So what I did for this 17-year-old is I made him third shift security. And he was my third shift security in my building, so he had shelter while he waited for a place to go live. And it took about 2 weeks, and we were able to find him housing, and I'm happy to report that he is still doing very well, and he is actually the manager of Taco Bell. So when we do just the very littlest things for people, especially at a young age, that makes a very big impact for people. Someone like me, I came from a very blessed household. Not because we were rich, but because I had a very loving household. I had 2 very supporting parents. I can't even imagine what that would be like to not have that, and who I would be today without my parents. And so along with what she said about McKinney-Vento is I would like to bring in to this town, it's kind of like a volunteer foster for young youth, or excuse me, how do I say that? Young adults. So basically we're talking about 17 to 22 years old, where we sign people up, we pay to have their background checks, and they more or less take in a young adult to help them learn the ways of being a citizen, a proper, or whatever you want to say, a citizen, so that they don't end up homeless, right? Because what do? We're just going to turn our backs, and we have a homeless issue right now. I can't even tell you how many homeless I serve on a weekly basis that need something. I know some people are afraid to go walk the trails. I'm telling you right now, I've never had a problem on those trails. And I take my children down those trails. I've never had a problem. In the 4 years that I've opened that store, homeless used to walk by in my back area. They would stop all the time. You want some hope? Want some hope? Yeah, they help me. I'm like, what do you need? You want a sandwich? I can get you a banana. These are not just people who choose this. It happens. And I think people who have never been in that poverty situation where you've never had money in your bank account, you've been kicked out, no offense, but you shouldn't have a say. Because if you haven't been in that situation where you haven't lost practically everything, I'll be totally honest, my mom is about ready to be shocked. When I lived in Florida, my husband and I, we're married now, we were homeless for a week. We literally stayed in a hotel for a week. And thankfully, I found all my, what are those things called your grandparents used to give you? Thank you, the savings bonds. I had found all my savings bonds. I cashed them in. I was able to put down a security deposit and first month's rent, and then we ended up renting that house. And then we ended up buying that house. My point is that when there's not enough resources to just help somebody get to that next step, we're only preventing a better future. So we're already having this epidemic, so why not start with the youth now that are at risk? So that we can make a better future. Because if you want a better future, that's where our future is our youth. That's going to be our future pharmacists. They're going to be our future people that work at gas stations. I mean, that's our future. So if we don't invest in our youth, we're not going to have a promising future. I mean, in 2008, the poverty level here in Hillsdale, you can stop me at 5 minutes. I have no concept of time. So in 2008, poverty level was at 15.1% here in Hillsdale. By 2012, in 4 years, it had grew to 19.7, okay? In 2020, it was 12.6. If that theory is true, because basically we're going into a recession, whether anybody wants to believe it or not, rising cost of gas are up 30%, electric is up 30%. I'm sure you all know about our housing crisis, that the housing market for the rentals here are astronomical. I have people who come into my store and are trying to dig for change because they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to pay for their electric bill or be able to afford clothes for their kids. And when I'm not just saying this because I'm an emotional or passionate person. I see this on a daily basis. I have to go to therapy for this because I don't know what else to do for these people. And if we don't come together as a community, this is going to be awful. And I love Hillsdale. I moved away for 6 years, and all I cared about was wanting to come back to raise my children here. I feel safe here.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you do, too, for the community.
Thank you.
Podium's still open.
Okay, good evening. My name is Michelle Hebert, the mom of that outspoken young lady. I currently work at Hillsdale Community Thrift. Prior to that, I was a hairstylist and a salon owner here in Hillsdale for 24 years. My concern tonight is the topic of homelessness in Hillsdale and the individuals in this community who deny the existence of homelessness or the resources needed to help the crisis in our community. I've heard for some time about discussions of a shelter. Well, it's time for a transition. Discussions need to become actions. My goal tonight is to clearly know where this board stands on the crisis of homelessness in Hillsdale. Does each and every member acknowledge that there are people struggling with homelessness and the need for more resources to help combat the looming crisis? And it's going to be one, because I've worked at the store since the day it's opened, been involved, and it happens every day. Hillsdale is one of the poorest counties in Lower Michigan, with many citizens in and near poverty, raising their risk for the next homelessness. I feel it's important to be perfectly transparent. After all, you were all elected. So with a raise of hands, who agrees that there are people struggling with homelessness in this community and more resources are needed? So anyone here want to raise their hands if there's homelessness? It's been brought to my attention by multiple people that Hillsdale has expressed no interest in resources. It'd be interesting to know who told them that. Declining the offer for help by stating, we don't have a homeless problem, while other community members blame the warming shelter and refuse the idea of a shelter because it attracts people struggling with homelessness to come here. A perfect example is that letter by Dr. Nicholas Rorick to the council 2 weeks ago. At your last meeting, he made it very clear that homelessness exists and at the burden that it plays on him and his family life. It was a burden for him. That the growing problem has been quite a thorn in the side of Hillsdale College and its prestigious persona they portray. To be transparent, I personally find that sickening. And he and those who agree with him about that and his resolution, just move him out of here, are ignorant and honestly heartless. So to move forward, we need to address some questions. And I'll be back in 2 weeks to look for an answer. Who approves a shelter in this city, and what needs to happen to start the process? Do you need a building? Do you need money? What do you need? And what resources are you aware of that can be utilized by Hillsdale to help with the crisis? Because I know them, but I want to know if you know them. Because I know people have been turned down. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Michelle. Any more public comment on agenda items only?
I rise in defense of the citizens of Hillsdale who are being mistreated, harassed, burglarized, and frightened by homeless people in our once safe community. I'm specifically not talking about people like you or the young man Elijah Hardgrove who was here last week. That guy's obviously trying to improve his situation, and it is our Christian duty to help someone like that. What we citizens of Hillsdale are opposed to are the permanent homeless. I've walked through the homeless camps and seen the drug paraphernalia. This is a criminal element. These are people that show no interest in improving their situation and may be the ones responsible for the break-ins and harassment of our neighbors. I'm also here to stand up for the people smeared by so-called homeless advocates and how judgmental they are about our Christianity. In one breath, they're telling us not to judge the homeless, and in the next, they're judging and condemning the people bringing this subject up as if they alone hold all the virtue in this city. Non-judgmentalism or sentimentality over common sense is not virtue, it is stupidity. My wife and I brought a fatherless boy under our roof for 7 years, but we would never have done it if he didn't show some initiative to improve his situation. And we certainly never would have done it had there been a hint of danger to my family. This is not being non-judgmental, it is using common sense. Just as we should help Elijah improve his situation, we also have a duty to protect our families, friends, and neighbors. Permanent homeless who sow fear and harm and show no intent or ability to improve their situation need to be removed from our community, so the quality of the lives of the people who live, work, and raise families here can improve. Along those lines, I am all but certain the little girl who had a man expose himself and swear at her was a homeless guy. Why am I certain? Because that was the description she gave me when she came home. That was my daughter. The last thing I thought I would be doing that Friday was explaining to an innocent little girl what an erection is. She then spent the afternoon with the police, who are doing a great job, thank you, walking through the crime scene again, and yes, it's a crime, and questioned about every deal of what was a terrifying experience for her. The so-called homeless activists do a great job of acting like victims and then turning into bullies they accuse those of us protecting our families and communities of being. If your 15 seconds of fame comes in the form of calling out a councilman for the problems of his son, you are not helping the situation, and I hope you feel good about dragging someone else down to make yourself feel better, but it does nothing to solve the problem. Walk a mile in the shoes of my little girl exposed to a homeless pedophile, and then walk a mile in Elijah's shoes and see which one makes you feel better. See which person you would most want to emulate. Transient homeless need to be helped. Intransigent, permanent homeless need to be dealt with in a manner that removes them from the public. There's a good article from Heritage that talks about the mayor of Houston who balances enforcement with services. I can make it available, you may have it already. That's what I would turn you to. It does both. I think it would probably make all of us happy, honestly. And if it doesn't, tell me. You seem like the bashful type. That's all I have, and I wish Elijah Godspeed.
Thank you, David. Is there any more public comment? Seeing none, we will close the podium and we'll move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city and BPU claims of November 3rd, payroll of October 27th, city council minutes of November 7th and November 14th, library minutes of September 8th, housing commission minutes of September 21st, Christmas in the city parking space closure, 2022 Christmas light up parade, and BPU WWTP replacement valves and piping. Is there any discussion on any items in the consent agenda? Councilman Sharp.
Just to make sure we get the public, make sure they're aware of the light up parade. So that is, what, December 3rd, I believe? Just want to make sure we say it here. So in case somebody doesn't pay attention, it's what, 6 o'clock that night?
Yeah, I believe it's in communications here, bud.
6:15. All right. Yeah, just want to make sure the public's truly aware of that, because sometimes people don't check their emails, or they don't see something, and they're going, what? So we put it out there this way too. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sharp. Any more discussion on any items in the consent agenda or questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Veer. May I have a roll call, City Clerk?
Councilperson Palladino,
Yes.
Pratt. Sharp. Stuchel. Veer,
Yes.
Wolfram. And Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
All approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on in the packet to communications petitions. The first item is 2022 The Great Give, and that's Hillsdale County Community Foundation. I would encourage people to check that out. It is 11/29/2022, so it's November 29th. Second item is our winter quarterly newsletter. A lot of good stuff in here. It's got our, we're having another New Year's event. There's an advertisement for that, our light up parade, tree planting program, lots of good stuff. Y'all should get it in your BPU bills. Third item is Key Opportunities Business After Hours. And that is Thursday, December 1st from 4 to 6 p.m. And that is at Key Opportunities in partnership with the Economic Development Corporation. So what I would encourage business people and entrepreneurs to attend that. Item number D is Christmas in the City, which is December 3rd. And that is, there will be a scavenger hunt downtown, caroling, carriage rides. That's 11:45 to 3 p.m. on December 3rd. And we sure have been getting ready for it at Gelser's, so it should be an exciting event. And then item number E, leaf collection update. Jake? Jason? Sorry, bud. It's not like I haven't known Jason for 40 years or anything, but
Afternoon. So we are obviously running a little behind right now. At the moment, we're about 4 days behind. The leaf pickup kind of changed on us this year. Last year in the past, everything's kind of fell through the later part of the year, and this year everything kind of fell through about the week of October 23rd to the 27th. And of course, following that, we had 6, 7 great days of nice weather where people definitely took advantage of that time to get their leaves out to the street. What I'm also seeing is, I believe, and this is what I believe, is people are using the service that didn't use it last year also. The year before we were at the bag system, and then last year people were starting to get back into it. This year is getting used pretty heavily. I got some numbers I'd like to share with you guys. This year, in 16 days that we've ran, we've picked up 1,863 cubic yards of material. The same 16 days last year, we picked up 855 cubic yards of material. So that tells you kind of where that flip side is. Not just that, though, is that 1,863 number, that's more than we picked up all last year. We picked up 1,677 cubic yards last year, and it's entirely of 2 rounds. So we're over double of what we picked up already citywide, and we're still got a lot more to go. I fully believe getting into the second round, which we should be in probably by Monday or Tuesday next week, it should go very fast as we're getting the bulk of it right now. They're all scheduled 2-3 day awards. I believe we're going to finish them in a day and a half, 2 day awards. So we still should hit our December 13th deadline.
awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I would say, with the exception of running a little bit behind, which, big deal, that happens. I haven't got any complaints this year about
Great.
people's yards getting tore up or things of that nature. So the only thing I've heard is that they're running behind, which, yes, I've heard that quite a bit, but that's going to get remedied because you'll get caught up eventually.
Yeah, so the guys been working last week. They work overtime every day trying to catch up. And I'm sorry, the week before and the last week, of course, we had the snow day that pushed us behind. And then most of my guys are out with vacations too. They had planned for months out. but we still ran every day regardless till dark last week as well. But I feel next week we can go back to regular 7 to 3:30 hours and still meet our deadline.
Awesome. Well, logistically speaking, great job. And any questions for Jason while he's at the podium? Thank you, Jason. Did you?
Absolutely. So what we plan on doing with the new sweeper that we have too is, weather permitting, that the second round, that's when we're going to have that new street sweeper out too. As that's going through, we'll be getting what's left in the gutter pan and so forth. So hopefully going to winter with some nice clean gutters, drains and so forth going into the year. It just wasn't logical to put it out the first round with a bunch of leaves and stuff that's still blowing around.
Good job. Rather see you do it right than do it hastily. So
Absolutely.
I know that's your policy. Appreciate it,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep, have a good day.
You too. All right. Is there any discussion on any of the items in communications petitions before we move on? Seeing none, we will move into old business. Item A, which would be the update on the house in Union and Howder Street. I will say, before we bring Tom on to update us, that late last week, the resident there had posted on Facebook on a pretty prominent page that gets a lot of traffic, that asking if anybody had any electric heaters, because she didn't have any heat. And I saw it and freaked out about it because I happen to know she's got 3 children in that house. And it was freezing that night. So I'm thinking we're going to have frozen children. And I contacted the chief, who took care of it right away. I contacted Dave, and I contacted the resident and told her to take her kids to the warming center, and that, nobody's going to steal her house while she's gone. But there's no... stubbornness is not an excuse for letting children freeze. And by that time, she told me that somebody had given her some electric heaters. Then I had talked to the chief again later in the night. The chief and I were corresponding back and forth about it that evening, and he said that actually it was warm in the house and that the children were fed and everything was okay. But I ended up talking to the woman for a little while. And I didn't know this, but she does work. She's got a full-time job. She actually works 2 jobs. So I don't understand the situation that this woman is in. This house is. I told her she had a hole in her roof. She said, "No, I don't have a hole in my roof. It's just some shingles missing." I said, "There's sunshine. There's a hole in your roof." But the more I've corresponded with her, the more I feel like she is not a person that's just haphazardly not taking care of her property. I think she's in a very bad position and she does not know how to get out of it. So is that the feeling you're getting off of this, Tom, or?
I don't know much about that. I do know from, at least it's my understanding from speaking with Mr. Beaker before, that attempts have been made to steer her toward assistance that's available to address the issues with the house, and she's declined to do any of that. And so that kind of puts the city in a difficult position if you're going to actually enforce the ordinance. We have an order. First of all, we have a judgment originally from back in March, where the judgment provided that she had a period of time within which to either bring the house into compliance and get a use and occupancy permit, which she didn't do. And she had been informed before she moved in that you can't move into that house unless you correct those issues because there's pending enforcement action on it. She moved in anyway. A ticket citation was issued. She didn't appear for the hearing. Default judgment was entered that indicated you either need to get it into compliance or at least be working toward that, or vacate the premises until you get a use and occupancy permit. She didn't vacate the premises. She didn't bring it up to into compliance with the ordinance, meaning she didn't get a permit. And under our ordinance, you're not supposed to be living in the premises if you don't have a use and occupancy permit, and there, particularly if there are serious structural issues with the residents, which there are here. We have obtained an order on August 17th from Judge Stiverson that indicates that she was to immediately vacate the premises, and if she didn't do that, it allowed the city to enlist the aid of either the sheriff's department or the city police to have her removed from the premises until such time as it was brought into compliance with ordinance. And in the meantime, the council voted to condemn the property, which basically means it would get torn down. She still hasn't responded to that order. There have been some issues with getting the police, one of the police agencies, to enforce the order. They have some concerns, so I'm going to try and work with them on those concerns. In the meantime, I have contacted the court to get a little bit of judicial direction as to how the judge might want us to approach this, because it's an issue we anticipate potentially coming up with other properties later on. Part of the problem is I can get all the orders in the world, and the judge can sign them, but if there's nobody with a badge and who can go out and enforce them, then you may as well not have them. So the judge is going to want to see that order enforced in some fashion. I'm looking for feedback from her as to how she wants me to approach that, or how she wants to approach it. It certainly is within the judge's discretion, if she would like to use it, to contact one of the police agencies and more or less tell them they need to enforce the order. But we're trying to work through those things. There are a lot of different issues that the parties have, and I'm trying to accommodate those.
I just want to back way up. I just want to understand. It's gone through the courts.
Yep.
All the legal things are done.
Yep.
The judge said evict on August 17th.
Yep.
And all you said you're waiting for is somebody with a badge to go evict.
Yep.
We have 2 people in this town with a badge to go evict, so why haven't they been evicted? That's the simple question.
They have some concerns about, I can tell you what primarily the issue is. Certainly, the preferable agency to do it would be the
So what-
sheriff.
The sheriff's department is the one that should do it.
The
That's
sheriff's department
it's their job to
typically
do that
does-
stuff.
Well, the sheriff's department typically does evictions. One of their concerns is that, one of the problems you have with it is it's not, what they serve are landlord-tenant evictions, right? There's a statute that governs that. There's forms that they have to deal with that. If you give them something that doesn't look like what they're used to doing, they are suspicious of it. And they're worried about liability and other
I
kinds
mean,
of issues.
I just got to clear, let's make this real simple. Doesn't the sheriff and the chief of police and you talk? I mean, this is not complicated things. We have, what's the
talked.
point of having the judge and the lawyers and ordinance if we can't enforce it? Because my concern is with space heaters, that house is going to catch on fire and we're going to have 3 dead people there.
I would agree with
have an order.
Councilman Stuchel. This is a really bad
This is a
situation.
safety issue, a health issue.
I did what
And
I can do, which is obtain an order. I can't enforce it.
Okay, chief?
Those questions would be for the police, and I understand they have some concerns.
I'd
I'm
like to hear
trying to do
I would
what
like
I
to hear what the chief
can
has to say. Why this,
to
I mean,
address-
where's the
to
holdup?
This is
address-
really simple. We're not mandated to do civil process. This is civil process. Sheriff's Department is. This order lists both departments. The Sheriff's Department contacted us, said we're not doing it because it's in the city and it has your department's name on it. I've been in this department for almost 35 and a half years. We've never served civil process like this in the past.
Okay.
We have no experience in it. We train our officers to do what we're required to do. We've never done this before. I read it over and over. I've talked to Alan at Code Enforcement. I've talked to Mr. Mackey. I left a detailed message with Tom. There has to be court decisions or some case law that covers this that we've never seen because we don't do this. So
I mean,
in my
when
mind,
you
what
say
this
city
order
police, you're saying the city police doesn't do this?
serve civil process in
Yeah,
this manner?
when you say
No.
we don't do that, you're talking about
No,
your
we never
department.
have.
Your
I've
department.
never seen one of these orders
Okay,
before.
I just want
In 35
clarity.
years.
That's
So-
because this isn't a typical order. This is an order that's out of the ordinary, but it is a lawful order of the court.
What, the order that the Sheriff's Department generally gets says writ of restitution on the top. It's to return the property to the owner. So that's a landlord-tenant. Almost 100% of them, I would say, for writ of restitution are landlord-tenants. This
They're
is
all
an
landlord
owner-occupied.
tenant. It's pursuant to a statute and a court proceeding that is limited to landlord-tenant and land contract forfeiture actions. This is something different. This is enforcement of a city ordinance, and the city ordinance says you cannot stay in a place if you don't have a use and occupancy permit.
What's the point of having the ordinance? We
And
just
so
don't-
we have an
just
order
violate
that
one.
says
What do we
she can be evicted. And it's a lawful order of the court. But I'm trying to work through with the police agencies and with the court a way to get this done so that everyone is comfortable with it, and we'll do that. I'm not looking to throw anybody under the bus for it.
We're not refusing to do our job. We'll do our job.
No,
We've never done this.
I want to
I
make sure
called the
that
chief. You had somebody over at the house in 10 minutes and this was Friday night. I mean, late on a Friday night to check on the situation. So I know,
I'm not
you
accusing
know,
you of not doing your
I
job,
didn't
but
think
why-
you were. I'm just saying.
Why don't you and Sheriff Hotshire just go to the door together?
So
Okay,
here's-
this is gonna involve a lot. We've been in contact with her. This is gonna involve kicking the door in because she refuses to leave. This is gonna involve us potentially destroying their family dog that is about trying to eat every officer that's gone there. This is gonna involve physically removing them out of the house, a woman and her 3 kids, and where the language that I've read says they cannot be habitating in the house, basically the premises. I don't know if once we drag them out of the house, can we leave them in the yard? Do we have to drag them in the middle of the street and let go of them and drive away and create them as a homeless?
So that's-
These are the issues. I have no idea how to proceed because we
that's
don't do
what I'm
these.
trying to work to clarify through the court. The issue is, as well, you know, in addition to being the city attorney, we represent the city police, and I also represent the county, so I represent the county sheriff. And so we want to make sure that they're all comfortable with what their potential
I understand
liability
it.
might be
But
for
are
that.
we in any jeopardy? Are we under, I mean, if that house catches on fire and those
No.
people are killed,
No.
we're okay?
Yes. We don't have, the city does not have an obligation to maintain the premises. The city can enforce ordinances that relate to the premises.
Okay.
But, you know, that's all the more the city can do. There's no civil liability for the city for not following through and evicting her. There is potential liability for the police if they do it wrong.
well, it can't. Something's got to be done. And I begged her to get her kids out of that house because it is a bad, bad situation
So
and it's dangerous.
We are working on it, and part of the thing is, you know, the court's involved, so it's important to have the judge give some direction about how she would like for us to approach that. Because, if for no other reason, 1, to get it done this way, but 2, to make sure that when we have this issue again, we have a procedure in place that we've had approved in effect by the judge as to how to handle these different kind of eviction matters.
Councilman Sharp.
I'm not picking on you guys, but I've seen that house numerous times when I drive by what place I work for. That's not when, it's gonna be definitely when it burns, because the roof is just plywood. There's no shingles on that roof. I've worked carpentry. I've done roofs. That house is just, there's no way that house is safe to live in health-wise.
And
There's
that's
probably
why-
mold in that house.
Oh, it's
That's
gonna
why there's a judgment.
it's gonna fall down on top of them.
I just don't want us to have a fire. We've already had one house fire today. That one's just waiting to kindle sometime, and there's gonna be people dying in there, because I'm guaranteeing there's no smoke detectors in that house. So it's when it goes, how are they gonna get out? And then you got that dog to deal with. I've seen that dog. It's vicious.
And that's one of the concerns the police agencies have. So we do, in fact, have a judgment. That's what we get. If you are in violation of the ordinances, the most that the city can do is get a judgment from the court. If this is the first time, actually, I think we've had one where the person has gone to this length to ignore an order of the court. Now, the judge may have something she might decide she wants us to approach it from a contempt standpoint. If she wants us to do that, we'll do that. There are different ways to skin the cat, so to speak, and we're going to find the one that the judge likes. So, Judge Stiverson.
Any more questions? Councilman Wolfram?
Are they paying their property taxes? Do you know that?
I think actually we discussed that. But, yeah, I don't know if they.
Because, I mean, they could forfeiture if they failed to pay their property taxes.
Well, that takes a couple years to get to that
Well,
point, though.
that's true.
I don't think she's a bad girl, but this, I mean, she could not mentally, she needs to get help, and she's refusing it. And she told me on Friday she had an appointment with Community Action Agency, so I don't know if she kept that, but,
That would be helpful. That's one of the resources that I know that the code enforcement office tried to steer her toward, because there are funds available to help with those very types of issues if you can't afford it.
I understand, very complicated, very upsetting. It kept me up half the night on Friday night. It's very upsetting, the whole ordeal was. Any more questions for Chief or Tom? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your help that night as well. Any more discussion? Okay, we'll move on in the packet out of old business into new business. Item number A is Western Michigan Health Insurance Pool. David.
Thank you, Mayor. As states in the packet, the city currently is utilizing Priority Health for health insurance, and they have notified us that to renew with them, we would be receiving a 27% increase in premiums starting January 1st. With that, we started looking, the staff, the HR department, even our local representative, Mr. Bergee, and the Bergee agency started looking at options. One, to get better pricing, then 27% increase, and possibly improve our coverage, because we've had a number of employees who had issues with the service of Priority. That being said, we basically got three proposals, one from the Bergee agency, the Western Michigan Pool, and then also from the Teamsters. They have an insurance program as well, which one of our unions are Teamsters. So they provided us with a proposal. After looking at them with the union groups and non-union groups to analyze them, it was the staff is proposing that we go to the Western Michigan Pool for a number of reasons, but we are a 58-person group, so we feel the pain of everyone. If they have a health issue, our group goes up. That's why we're at 27%. But with the pool, and this is schools, municipalities, other public agencies, and it's in the packet, they have over 13,000 employees, and with their dependents, it's over 36,000. So with going to the pool, we will have, one, better stability in pricing, because the pool does some special things where they eliminate your high claims, and then they average all of them together. And as was in the packet, their average increase was 1.9% for this past year, where normal increases were over 6%. So that being said, we would like to propose to council moving to the Western Michigan Insurance Pool. There's a resolution there authorizing membership to the pool, and then the business agreement, which pretty much lays that out. It's a 3-year commitment, and the pool has been in place for quite some time, and they actually have not lost a single organization that's been part of the pool. So with that, I will take questions from council if you have anything specific.
Councilman Beer. Thank you, Dave.
But Dave, we also have going to have a savings of about 10% currently.
Yes, so So it would go up 27%. The, what we're looking at with the pool is doing two different plans. They would be, the increase on the base plan, which would be folks like an individual who doesn't want to spend that much, would be 6.5% increase. And then for a little better plan, it's at 21% increase, so it's still less than the 27%.
So
It
roughly
falls-
about 6%?
Yeah.
On the worst case?
And it does fall below what we have budgeted for this particular item. And it's also important to mention that we do an 80-20 split, so the employees pick up 20% of the cost as well.
And then also, isn't this, is this with Blue Cross? Blue Shield? Okay.
These plans that we're proposing are with Blue Cross.
And
yes.
then also, the plans are more customizable with the employee as far as determining what coverages, different coverages they might want.
That is correct. This move here would get us into the pool, and then we would have more flexibility once we're in the pool to look at different plans, add different services. Like outside of the pool, we have dental, optical, life insurance as well, but we would look at that next year to see if we can find some savings there as well.
And then it also deals with a 3-year commitment.
This is a 3-year commitment to the pool.
Councilman Sharp.
You're talking about a larger pool. It's like, I'll compare it to one of my manufacturing shop I worked for called Paragon. It was a smaller pool. We had Blue Cross, but we didn't get that great of rates. And when I went to Clemens, they've got over 4,000 employees, so we got a better Blue Cross rate. So anytime you get into a larger pool, you are going to get better rates. So it's a win-win for us on that, too.
And the city staff was pretty much unanimous on wanting to move to the pool and could see the value in it.
Very good. Councilman Wolfram.
Yeah, I was impressed with their renewal history. That the figure that is in the packet on the renewal history, I thought demonstrated that they are doing better than the industry average on that.
Sounds like a good deal, Dave. Any more questions? Entertain a motion to approve the resolution, as well as appoint the Human Resources Director as the trustee to the pool.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Veer, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll move on in the packet to item B, traffic control order for marked pedestrian crossing. Chief?
Yes, this is to finish out the road construction project down on South Howell, Linwood, Maury. There's a pedestrian crossing with curb cutouts between the main hospital parking lot and the hospital parking lot south of there on the south side of Linwood. So that's on both sides. The intention is, and it might not happen until spring, that the street will be striped across for the curb cutouts. The signage is in place, the advanced warning signs and the signs in place for the pedestrian crosswalk. There's no parking on the south side of the road as it is, and the safety zone requirements for this are a 25-foot no parking buffer on each side of the pedestrian crosswalk for safety for people entering the crosswalk so they can see if there's traffic coming. So that just gives us that order to enforce that if anybody's parked in between those signs, and that would be a 50-foot gap, 25 feet on each side of the crosswalk, just to make it official for a safety zone.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Councilman Veer?
Currently in Michigan with signage for with pedestrians, do the pedestrians have the right-of-way?
No.
They still have to yield to the traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a similar one on Northwest Street that crosses at Hillsdale College from Simpson Hall across towards the Searle Center. That's marked on the paved. They just just did one on M99 South Broad Street at the south end of the fairgrounds. They made a pedestrian crossing to Ritter's gas station there, and that's striped. But no, the pedestrians do not have the right of way. It's just marking and a warning for the traffic that there is a pedestrian crossing there, but pedestrians have to yield the right of way. We just want to make it safe for them when they're stepping out on the road to see if there's traffic coming.
Any more questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. Entertain a motion to approve the TCO. Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we will move on to item number C, standing committee appointments. I thank you to the council people that contacted me regarding their appointments. I tried to put everybody where they asked to be in regards to seniority and what people let me know their preferences were. If there's any questions or any objections, let me know right now. You are on community development. That is the only committee I put you on because you said you also wanted to serve on the homeless task force. So, okay. Well, I've got all the committee appointments right here. So, anybody else have any questions or objections to their spots? I mean, it's been in the council packet since Thursday, so.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm still sitting on Tifa.
You would be on Tifa still.
Yeah.
That's a separate appointment.
Yeah.
You were appointed in July, reappointed in July till Tifa.
Right.
You'd be on Tifa almost until your council term is up. So it's a 4-year appointment.
Yep.
So yes. Yep. Councilman Morrissey is still on the Planning Commission. I think he's got another 2 years on that term. And then Councilwoman Pratt had expressed an interest in being on the task force. Questions? Entertain a motion to approve the standing council committees. Motion on the floor from Councilman Stuchel, seconded by Councilman Pratt. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the first time I've ever screwed up, though, I think. Pretty close, a couple times. Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Sharp. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll move on to miscellaneous reports. We've got one proclamation, and it is right here. Proclamation Homelessness Youth Awareness Month. Whereas for over 25 years, the National Coalition for the Homeless and National Student Campaign Against Hunger and Homelessness have sponsored Homelessness Youth Awareness Week. And whereas the purpose of the proclamation is to educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless, including the shortage of affordable housing in Hillsdale for very low-income residents, and to encourage support for homeless assistance service providers, as well as community service opportunities for students and school service organizations. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services, as well as meals and food supplies to people experiencing homelessness, including Salvation Army, Community Action Agency, McKinney-Vento, Love Inc., and whereas the theme of Homelessness Youth Awareness Month 2022 is Homeless, Not Hopeless, and whereas the Hillsdale City Council recognized that hunger and homelessness continues to be a serious problem for many individuals and families in Hillsdale, Michigan, now therefore it be resolved that the Hillsdale City Council hereby proclaims November 2022 as Homelessness Youth Awareness Month. Be it further resolved that the Hillsdale City Council encourages all citizens to recognize that many people do not have housing and need support from citizens and private, public, nonprofit service entities. Signed by me this day, November 21st, 2022. That being said, the Public Safety Committee, I would ask, Councilman Soha is not here, but I would ask Councilman Stuchel and Councilman Palladino to schedule a public safety meeting ASAP. to talk about homelessness and how we will approach it from a public safety standpoint. Also to establish a subcommittee, i.e. the homeless task force. Yeah, you guys get it called? Thank you. Very appreciated. All right, we will move on to general public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, George is asking to be reappointed to the library board. He's a great asset to the library board, very involved, and I would encourage his reappointment. Any questions? Entertain a motion to appoint George Allen to the library board.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilwoman Pratt, seconded by Councilman Veer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, George, for your willingness to serve. Now we'll move into general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium, and you may speak on anything your heart so desires.
Do I say my name and address, or?
No, I mean, hi, Holly.
Hi. As I mentioned earlier, my job is working with the homeless youth population. This is a job that I dearly love. I am able to provide resources to children who oftentimes only find stability, food, and comfort in their school building. These resources have the ability to transform a withdrawn student into one who has a smile on their face and feels confident enough to excel in their academics. My hope is one day these identified students will be able to graduate school and end the poverty cycle that has affected their family of origin. Excuse me. A component of my job is community outreach and community education. I have knocked on hotel doors, walked in the woods finding encampments, and even slept outside in the single digits. Last night, my executive director, 3 coworkers, and myself all slept outside in downtown Coldwater to bring awareness to homelessness. I can tell you that no person finds comfort in sleeping outdoors in the wintertime. I am a certified Bridges Out of Poverty facilitator and a trained Getting Ahead instructor. Both programs deal with poverty and the hidden rules of class. I am in grad school for my MSW, where I hope to use the knowledge I gained through my studies to continue assisting those in poverty and who are in poverty and having housing instability. I live in the city limits, and I have multiple homeless camps around me. And at one point in time, I was homeless. So I know a thing or two about homelessness. The homeless in our community are in their situation for a number of reasons. Just this morning, my friend, a local school teacher, lost her home to a fire within the city limits. Because of friends and family that pulled together, this family has what they need for the next several days. Not everyone is this lucky. Not everybody has the resources to be able to pull together and help a friend. The United Way Alice report shows that 41% of working Michigan families struggles to afford basic necessities such as housing, childcare, food, and insurance. Will you find bad seeds within the homeless community? Of course you will, but you will also find bad seeds within every population. Some even get elected into positions of authority. The homeless want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be respected. They want affordable housing. Who can afford $700 to $900 for a 1-bedroom in Hillsdale? Not somebody on Social Security, and especially not a family of 4. They should not be living in a 1-bedroom. Excuse me. We need to work together to solve the issue of homelessness in our community. After all, doesn't the Bible command us to help those? For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Any more public comment? Jack. swear, Jack's got a hole somewhere over in that corner.
Okay. Talking about the Howder Union, you guys got buildings at 58 and 60 West Street that have been condemned for well over 10 years, and they're just sitting there wide open on the backside. There's no condemnation signs on those buildings whatsoever. The weeds were never mowed in the backyard. If you go up there right now, there's 3-foot tall weeds out there. I think this is something that should be looked at. I know it's owned by one of the good old boys, so that makes a difference, I understand, but that being said, I was at the candidates thing at the college, and I'm sorry you ladies are misinformed, but homelessness is a mental illness. Yeah, that's the only thing it can be is a mental.
It's part of it.
Yeah, but not the whole thing, not the whole thing, which I didn't realize that. Okay, I was here a long time ago, and something, due to my heritage and stuff, something was brought up about we needed more Christians. I kind of wondered if that was an anti-Semitic comment or not. I know that probably sounds a little stupid, a little after the fact, but just kind of makes me wonder due to my heritage and stuff. And last, and you guys are going to like this one, March 4th, 1961. You got to do some looking, but here it is. This is from Mr. Hatt and Mr. Van Fleet and Mr. Orville Myers, which some of you probably don't even know who he was, but he was a city manager. This letter, and it's also tied in with the United States Soil Conservation Unit, talks about the drainage at the airport. So I'm thinking the city needs to look in their files and come up with this information and try to figure out what's actually going on out there and what liabilities the city does have for this. So, I mean, I can show you this if you want to. I'm not going to give it to you, but I can show it.
What year is it from, Jack?
1961, March 4th.
Yeah, airport was over in the industrial
it
park.
wasn't. This is the land out there. My dad owned property up there. He owned the hangar in 1961. And it was not the airport. We did have a plane land there once, but when he found out it was no longer the airport, he took off in a big hurry. So, just to let you know, that's what this letter is. And it talks about the drainage and the road that they put in and that stuff. Well, that being said, that property is in Adams Township. Adams Township is zoned. The city has never applied for a zoning permit from Adams Township. I guess, you know, the city wants everybody to follow their zoning, but they don't want to apply for anybody else's zoning. I mean, and part of that property is in Hillsdale Township also, which is both zoned. So, I've actually talking to some city officials. Nobody can remember them ever applying for a permit, which I don't understand how they can do building and this and that without having a zoning permit from the townships. I don't know if the FAA has precedence over zoning and can force their way in to do this kind of stuff or not.
Probably the train station does what it wants to, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Because of the federal railroad, whatever.
The permits are still there, so I think
Okay.
they should be asked for. That's just my opinion on that without, I mean, follow the townships. Because there's other stuff that the city does that violates townships ordinances that I don't think is right. I mean, do what you preach. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Hey, I would like to see that drainage letter when you get a chance, though, bud, okay? Thank you. Any more public comment?
Can I have the address to that woman's house? Am I allowed to have it? Can you give it to me after?
I'm not comfortable giving somebody else's address to somebody here, but it
Okay, well-
should be, yeah, you can't miss it.
Okay, okay, I'll figure that out for myself.
Just not in official capacity,
That's
Missy.
fine.
I'm not comfortable.
That's fine. But one of the reasons I can tell you why she won't leave is because if she leaves and she has nowhere to go, CPS will get involved and they'll take her kids. So my question is, has CPS ever been called yet?
Yes.
So, and her kids are still there? So my next question is, a lot of people have a really hard time asking for help, and I'll figure out where this house is, and then I'll just get help there. Because if she has somewhere else to go, I'm sure she'd leave. But if she has nowhere else to go or to take her children, do you expect her to leave? Because that house is at least somewhat of a shelter than sitting outside. And if she is homeless, her kids could be taken away from her. So I'll figure out where the house is, and then I'll just bring help to her. Because of my connections of being here for 4 years with all the direct connections, I consider myself a hub now because I've gotten so many connections, I can just literally have people go where they need to go. So I'm glad that you brought that up today. So I'll make sure that she gets help.
Okay. Good luck with it, though. It's a little more complicated than that, Missy.
I appreciate
We have been dealing with it for a long
And I
time.
can understand with everything that's going on, and I'm sure she feels incredibly attacked. When you try to understand somebody in their shoes, like you literally have to take everything that you have and then you get rid of it. And then you wonder, like, well, what is somebody actually doing to help her? Like, what has somebody gone to do there to help her? Not just go do this or this is going to happen. Go do this or this is going to happen. People put up a defense. It's just, it's common humanity. I mean, it's no different if I was sitting here attacking you. You would feel like you would have to put up a defense. So there is other ways of obviously approaching this, and I'm just curious if anybody has actually gone there to give her actual solutions. Not tell her where to go, but she may not even know how to ask for help. And I can tell you from experience in this town of dealing with Community Action Agency, DHS, the paperwork is a nightmare. And if you don't have all your P's and Q's, they will immediately deny you help. I'm not joking, because then the next person's in line to do it as well. So it's hard to get help sometimes in this town. So it's overwhelming, not to mention your pride. You feel terrible, not to mention the risk that her kids could get taken away. So I can understand.
I have talked to her, and I'm not comfortable talking about what her personal situation is, but there is a reason that she's staying in the house, and it has to do with her personal relationships. So,
okay,
there's more. She bought the house with somebody else.
Bought the house with somebody else.
You know.
But is she paying taxes on a condemned house?
I don't know if her summer taxes are paid or not. So,
okay.
Thank you, Missy.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any more public comment?
Mr. Palladino and council, this is specifically for you. Let's address some of your false statements in a public forum. You stated at the debate, I used books that were not in your email. Katie Price has something to hand out, a copy of your email, actually. I have the books here. 2 of the books are, in fact, in your email. One is a children's book labeled LGBT+, which, in fact, would be involved in your amendment and is very basic, doesn't talk about sex, grooming, and is not pornography. This book talks about racism, is designed to help youth deal with racism. It's written by a Christian author, it's published by a Christian publisher, and it was in your email. This book was also in your email. It's about moms. How good moms are. They bake things, they help you pick up your room, they make you a dinner. It's just a picture book about moms. No pornography, no sex, no grooming, nothing. A picture picture book about moms. This book was not in your email, but it is labeled LGBTQ+, so it would have been addressed in your amendment. It's a picture book. No sex, no grooming, no pornography. It's a picture book about two guys giving a cat a bath. So, as one of your constituents, I would appreciate you sticking to the truth and not lying. I will leave you with this, indicate you are a Christian, Leviticus 19:11. Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive another. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Any more public comment?
I understand there's gonna be a homeless task force. So where's the meeting, or when's the date, or what's happening?
It isn't formed yet, but it'll be formed
Maybe we'll know in a
through the
couple
Public
weeks.
Services Committee.
Oh, okay.
Well, ladies, you guys haven't been here before. This in-between from the audience and council is not something we do. We try to keep decorum, and I appreciate that you guys came tonight, but I have been explicitly, this is my fault, not your fault, my fault. I have been explicitly breaking council rules with this back and forth with the audience. If you guys want to wait until after the meeting, I can come and talk to you.
Well,
but
it was just a public question. I just want, okay, so in 2 weeks, maybe we get the answer? I mean, granted, I don't come to council meetings either, but it's an issue, and something was mentioned about a homeless task force, and the question is, when do we know about it? So what was your answer?
it isn't
comes
formed.
when?
It will be formed through the Public Services Committee,
And how do we
Safety
find?
Committee.
And then how do I find that out?
Yeah, it'll be.
We will try to have that meeting for the next, our sub-meeting. There's only 3 people are going to meet to discuss it. We'll try to get together before the next week's meeting so we can announce where we're at with it.
Okay.
We're
that was
developing
just
it
a
right now.
question.
There's no meeting set.
Okay, that was
Okay?
just a question.
And the task force is the mayor's request.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure it's posted and publicized and all that, so. Any more public comment? Okay, we will close the podium. Council members, I apologize to you guys profusely for my interaction with the audience tonight, and I wouldn't let you guys get away with it. So, passions were high, and the community. Well, maybe we need to start holding more town hall meetings where we can do the thing where we take questions and answers, and so. But I am sorry. I would not let you guys get away with that, and I broke our own rules like 30 times tonight. My bad. We'll move on to the city manager's report. David.
Just a few things, Mr. Mayor. So the airport was built in 1963, so it was built after the 1961 date that Jack had spoke about. Tomorrow, we will be closing on our bond issue. And just a reminder for those that were here and those who weren't, to council members, at the time, the city bond rating was AA- stable. And our bond underwriters felt that was pretty good for us. We ended up with a 4.27% rate for this bond issue. And it is being paid back from monies from the water department, the sewer department, as well as the road millage monies. So that's what's paying back this bond. We will be putting the Westwood project out to bid, which will be covered from this bond or paid for it, probably right after the first of the year. So it's a pretty big project, but we're pretty confident things, as long as we see the economy somewhat stay where we're at, we'll be okay. I we'll be reaching out to the Public Service Committee members to set up a meeting for the Public Service Committee. We need to talk about the cemeteries, finalize that discussion, and also the Mitchell Building and how we're going to proceed with that on the lease and/or long-term. So, and lastly, just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And if there's any questions from council, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions from council members?
Yes, we are closed Thursday and Friday.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Any more questions? Thank you, Dave. We'll move into council comment. Anybody have anything interesting? Councilman Sharp.
Welcome, both of you. Now you know what the heat feels like. It's a whole new world here on you too, but welcome, both of you.
Anything else from council? Yep, this is our first meeting with the new council, isn't it? All right, very good.
And it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfram. Entertain a motion to adjourn? Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This meeting's adjourned.